Why did the air feel heavier the moment she stepped onto the gravel, like the mountain itself was holding its breath? Forward operating base Kestrel sat at 10,000 feet, a scar of steel and HESCO barriers carved into a range that did not forgive mistakes. The wind moved differently here. It didn't flow. It tested. Major Anna Kavek felt it immediately, scraping down her throat, settling into her joints like an old argument that never quite ended. 57 years had left their mark. She carried them in the quiet stiffness of her knees, in the careful economy of her steps. Two duffel bags hung from her shoulders. In her right hand, a long, hardened rifle case that never touched the ground. The soldiers noticed her before they knew who she was. They noticed the gray threaded through her dark hair, the lines around her eyes, the way she paused not from weakness but calculation before stepping down from the transport. To them she looked misplaced, an administrative relic dropped into a den of apex predators. Young men with clean gear, sharper reflexes, and futures still loud with promise. They glanced once, dismissed her, and went back to laughing. No one saluted. No one asked her name. A corporal with a clipboard met her at the perimeter. He didn't look up when he spoke. Major Kavak, quarters are that way. He pointed toward a row of prefabricated containers isolated from the main barracks, far enough to be convenient, far enough to be forgotten. Inside, the container smelled of cold metal and disinfectant. She unpacked with ritual precision, clothes folded, books stacked. Then the rifle case placed gently on the cot like a body laid to rest. When she opened it, the world narrowed. The rifle inside was not modern in silhouette, not sleek, not fashionable. A Dragunov and SVDM2 rebuilt with modern internals and German glass that caught the low light like still water. Wood replaced with adjustable composite, barrel free-floated, balanced, familiar. She cleaned it slowly. Outside, the younger soldiers passed by, loud and unburdened. Lions who had never met winter. They did not see her hands move with memory older than doctrine. They did not hear the quiet conversation between woman and weapon. The next morning, dismissal found its voice. Master Sergeant Elias Thorne filled the doorway of her container like a verdict. 32. Broad. Confident in the way men are when nothing has ever truly humbled them. His eyes flicked from her face to the rifle parts laid out on the cot. A smirk followed. Major Kavak, he said, making the rank sound inconvenient. I've reviewed your file, 10 years behind a desk. Not much call for high-angle ballistics in the Pentagon's basement. She didn't look up. He gestured toward the rifle. What is that thing? Win it in a raffle. It's a designated marksman rifle, she replied calmly. Chambered in 7.62 by 54, reliable in extreme temperatures. He laughed, not kindly. We're running a high-tempo, high-tech operation. My teams use integrated ballistic computers, laser rangefinders, rifles that cost more than your pension. We don't babysit non-field current personnel. The words landed where they were meant to. Your job, he continued, already turning away, is logistics. Count bullets, file reports, stay out of the way. The doorframe swallowed him whole. Anna reassembled the rifle. The final click echoed softly. She felt the familiar weight of being unseen, ignored. It wasn't new. It just hurt differently when you knew what you carried. For the next week, she accepted exile. She worked in the supply depot, counting ammunition, verifying lot numbers, inspecting seals. Corporal Ben Carter assisted her, polite, curious, watching. He noticed she didn't just count crates, she inspected them like a surgeon. Humidity ruins consistency, she told him once. A few grains of corrosion can change everything. Her real work began when no one noticed. From the depot bay, she watched the range. She watched mirage boil, dust devils rise, grass bend, hawks drift. She saw the mountain breathe. The teams relied on screens. She relied on silence. Before dawn, she practiced alone. No laser, no computer, just estimation, breath, and trust. One cold bore shot each morning. The rock across the ravine grew chipped in the same place. The mountain remembered her. The pressure came over the radio. A high-value target, the wolf, intelligence solid, storm moving in, window closing. Thorne's team deployed with confidence sharpened by technology. The canyon ahead, Serpent's Tooth, did not care. The wind twisted. The shot missed. Chaos followed. And then Anna moved. She stepped from the corner of the TOC like a shadow deciding to speak. Her voice cut clean through panic. "Alpha, this is Major Kavak. What's your position?" Thorne protested. Command hesitated. She read the canyon like scripture, spoke of rotors, lulls, pressure. "Disregard the computer," she said softly. "Hold 2 mils left, point 3 high, fire on my mark." It felt wrong. It worked. The wolf fell. Silence swallowed the room. Respect followed her like a tide. But Thorne couldn't let it go. Her file was a void, redacted beyond reason, programs unnamed, citations erased. She wasn't obsolete. She was hidden. Then retaliation came. A sniper named Jin, a ghost with patience, Alpha team pinned, bleeding daylight. Technology failed again. Thorne broke. "Can you help us?" Anna listened, heard echoes others missed, watched dust move where it shouldn't. "There," she said, "that fissure." He questioned her. She explained shadow, sound suppression, weight, patience. She saw the invisible. The counter-sniper fired. Jin died exactly where she said he would. And then Thorne asked the question that froze him. "Who trained you?" She paused. "I wrote the doctrine," she said quietly. "Call sign Spectre." The room knew the name. Legends are supposed to stay buried. That morning, Thorne saluted her without words. At dawn, Anna stood alone again, holding spent brass, not celebrating, just closing a chapter. A young corporal brought coffee, said nothing more. Silence passed between them like inheritance. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. Why did no one notice the way the room went quieter when she entered, or how the mountain itself seemed to listen? The days after the shot did not explode into applause or ceremony. There were no speeches, no public acknowledgments. Fob Kestrel didn't work that way. It absorbed events like the earth absorbs blood quickly, without comment. But something subtle shifted in the air, and the men who lived by instincts felt it before they understood it. Anna Kavak felt it too. She walked the gravel paths with the same measured pace, carried the same folders, drank the same bitter coffee. Yet the eyes followed her now. Not boldly, not openly, just enough to register presence. Conversations dipped when she passed. Jokes paused. Someone always straightened a little without realizing why. Respect rarely announces itself. It creeps in quietly like dawn. Still, she remained what she had always been here officially. A liaison, a logistics officer, a woman nearing the end of her career, tucked into a forgotten corner of an unforgiving base. The paperwork did not change. The duty roster did not change. Only the weight of silence around her did. And silence, Anna knew, could be louder than disbelief. She spent her mornings in the supply depot as before. Corporal Carter followed her with a new attentiveness, no longer masking his curiosity. He asked fewer questions, watched more. He noticed how she paused before opening certain crates, how her fingers hovered over lot numbers like she was listening to them. "Something wrong?" he asked once, hesitant. She shook her head, "Not yet." That answer stayed with him longer than it should have. In the afternoons, when the teams trained, she stood by the loading bay, her gaze drifting toward the range. The wind had changed since the storm. It always did. Mountains never repeated themselves. They adapted. She tracked the differences without writing anything down. Master Sergeant Thorne noticed her watching. At first, it irritated him. It felt like judgment, like being measured. He told himself it didn't matter. That one perfect call didn't erase 15 years of command, of technology-backed success. But the mountain didn't care about his resume, and neither did the quiet questions growing in his mind. He began replaying the shot. Not the result, the method. Her correction hadn't come from data. It hadn't come from probability. It had come from certainty. The kind that scared men who built their confidence on control. He reviewed atmospheric logs, wind tables, sensor recordings. Every variable supported her call after the fact, but none of it explained how she knew before. Experience, he told himself, just experience. Yet when he tried to imagine making that call himself, his mind balked. He would have waited, adjusted, trusted the tech, missed again. That realization unsettled him more than failure ever had. At night, Anna sat alone in her container, reading by a small lamp. Old books, margins worn soft by time. She read slowly, sometimes closing her eyes mid-page, as if listening to something beneath the words. Sleep came in fragments. When it did, it carried weight. She dreamed of wind cutting across open plains that were not these mountains, of hands rougher than hers adjusting her grip, of a voice that never raised itself yet always commanded attention. Don't fight the air, the voice would say. Let it tell you where it's going. She woke before dawn every time, breath steady, heart quiet. On the 6th day after the wolf fell, the briefing room filled for routine operations, patrol rotations, drone maintenance, weather forecasts. Anna took her usual place along the wall, unseen but present. Thorne stood at the front, speaking with confidence that had learned a new edge, less bravado, more caution. Halfway through, the door opened. Colonel Davies entered without ceremony. The room stood. He listened in silence, arms folded, eyes scanning faces until they landed on Anna. He held her gaze a moment longer than necessary, then nodded once. Small, acknowledging. After the briefing, he asked her to stay. Thorne waited too, unsure why he hadn't been dismissed. Davies turned to Anna. Walk with me. They stepped outside into the thin, bright morning. The mountain loomed, indifferent and eternal. Davies didn't speak at first. He matched her pace without effort, something few managed. You don't like attention, he said eventually. No, sir. You could have asked for reassignment. Command would have approved it. Yes, sir. But you didn't. She considered the path ahead. Some work doesn't announce itself. Davies exhaled slowly. Thorne didn't know who you were when you arrived. No, sir. He does now. Anna stopped, turned to face them both. Her expression was calm, but there was a firmness beneath it, like bedrock under snow. What he knows, she said quietly, is that a shot landed where it needed to, nothing more. Thorne shifted uncomfortably. With respect, Major, that wasn't. She held up a hand, not commanding, final. Davies studied her a moment longer. We're expecting retaliation, he said. You know that. Yes. If it comes, I want you in the TOC. Thorne's brow furrowed. Sir. That's not a suggestion, Davies said evenly. Anna nodded once, understood. The mountain heard the words and waited. Retaliation did not arrive with thunder. It arrived with patience. 2 nights later, the first perimeter sensor tripped, then went dead. No explosion, no alarm, just absence, the kind that gnawed at seasoned nerves. Drones swept the area, found nothing. The next night, a supply convoy reported interference. Not an attack, just disruption. Radios crackling, GPS drifting, a sense of being watched without proof. Anna listened to the reports in silence. This isn't chaos, she said finally. It's testing. Thorne frowned. Testing what? Us. The third night, a sentry post went dark for 7 seconds. 7 seconds was all it took. A warning shot cracked against a HESCO barrier near the motor pool. Perfect placement. No casualties. Maximum message. Jin had students. The base locked down. Anna stood in the TOC as feeds lit up. Her posture didn't change. Her eyes moved constantly, absorbing. They want us to react, Thorne said. Force a mistake. Yes, Anna agreed, so don't give them one. He looked at her, then what? She closed her eyes briefly, listening, the hum of electronics, the whisper of air through vents, the rhythm of men breathing under stress. Wait, she said. Waiting went against everything they were trained to do. But they waited. Hours passed. Then Anna opened her eyes. There, she said, pointing to a drone feed no one else had been watching, a shadow that lingered too long, a pattern that repeated when it shouldn't. Thorne leaned closer. That's nothing. No, she said gently, it's restraint. They tracked it slowly, quietly. By dawn they knew. The enemy wasn't attacking, yet because they were studying Anna. Spectre was no longer a myth whispered into rookie ears. Spectre was here. And ghosts, Anna knew, never liked competition. She felt the old weight settle into her chest, not fear, but responsibility. The kind that came when your past finally caught up to you. She had hoped this mountain would let her be quiet. It had other plans. She tightened her jacket against the cold and watched the sun rise over terrain that would soon demand everything again. Some lives are spent proving worth. Others are spent carrying it, whether the world is ready or not. Why did the mountain feel closer now, like it had leaned in, curious to see what she would do next? Anna felt it before anyone said the word attack. Not in the alarms, not in the radio chatter, in the rhythm of the bass itself, the way footsteps sounded sharper on gravel, the way voices dropped half a register, the way men checked their weapons twice, then a third time pretending it was routine. Fear never announces itself loudly among professionals. It settles, quiet, methodical. The TOC stayed active through the night. Screens glowed. Drones circled wider arcs. Thorne hadn't left his station in hours. Coffee sat untouched beside him, gone cold like the confidence he once carried so easily. Anna stood behind the main table, eyes moving between feeds, maps, and nothing at all. She wasn't watching for action. She was listening for intent. They're not probing the perimeter anymore, Thorne muttered. No sensors tripped, no interference. Anna nodded slowly, because they've learned what we notice. That answer tightened the room. Colonel Davies leaned forward, meaning. They know our thresholds, she said. What draws response? What doesn't? Now they'll go where we can't afford to hesitate. A young analyst swallowed. Where that? Anna didn't answer right away. She traced a finger along the map, following elevation lines like scars. People, she said finally, not positions. The first casualty wasn't dramatic. A recon element returning from an outer ridge stopped responding mid-check-in. No gunfire reported, no distress call, just silence where a voice should have been. Thorne snapped orders, QRF spun up, drones retasked. Anna closed her eyes. Too fast, she said. Thorne bristled. We can't just. They want pursuit, she interrupted softly. They always do. Her voice wasn't louder than his. It didn't need to be. The room stilled around it. Davies hesitated. If we don't move. We watch, Anna said, and we listen. Minutes stretched. Then the recon element came back online. Breathless, shaken, alive. Negative contact, the team leader reported. But something was there, we felt it. Anna opened her eyes. Mark the time, she said, and where you were standing when you felt watched. Coordinates were logged. Anna studied them, then nodded once. They're mapping fear. Thorne stared. That's not a tactic. It is if patience is your weapon. He rubbed a hand across his jaw. You keep saying they. How many are we dealing with? Anna's gaze never left the map. Enough. Night fell again. This time, Anna didn't return to her container. She remained in the TOC, standing while others rotated out. Carter passed by at one point, offering coffee. She accepted it with a quiet thank you. "You should sleep, Major," he said. "So should you," she replied. Neither of them moved. At 2:17, a single shot echoed from the northern slope. Not into the base. Away from it. Anna's head snapped up. "That wasn't a warning," Thorne said. "That was." "A signal," Anna finished. Drone surged toward the sound, found nothing. But Anna smiled faintly. "They're close now," she said. "Close enough to want an audience." Thorne turned to her. "Why?" She considered him, really looked at him. The armor he wore wasn't on his body, it was in his certainty, and that armor had cracked. "Because they want to see if the stories are true," she said. "What stories?" She met his eyes. "About me." The words sat between them like exposed nerve. The next move came at dawn. A sniper round punched clean through a communications mast on the east ridge. Surgical, disabling, not lethal. The message was unmistakable. "We can reach you." The base went a full alert. Teams deployed to overwatch positions. Counter-snipers scanned ridge lines that suddenly felt infinite. The mountain had too many places to hide a man who didn't want to be found. Anna stood with Thorne on the observation deck, wind pulling at their uniforms. "He's good," Thorne said quietly. "Yes." "Better than most." "Yes." Thorne glanced at her. "Better than you." Anna didn't answer immediately. When she did, it wasn't pride that shaped her words. "He's younger," she said, "and hungry." That wasn't reassurance. "Where would you hide?" Thorne asked. Anna closed her eyes. She pictured the mountain not as terrain but as intention. Lines of sight, escape routes, places where sound lied, where wind bent truth. "There," she said, pointing to a shadowed fold near the communications mast. "But that's where he wants us to look." Thorne frowned. "Then where?" She opened her eyes, pointed somewhere else entirely, a place that looked exposed, ordinary, unremarkable. "Because no one hides in the obvious," she said, "unless they know everyone's afraid of it." Thorne relayed the coordinates. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then a drone feed flickered. A shape moved. A man shifting weight. The counter-sniper team froze. "Permission to engage," came the whisper over comms. Anna watched the wind push dust uphill, wrong direction, a thermal shimmer where it shouldn't be. "Negative," she said. "That's bait." The shape vanished. A shot cracked from somewhere else entirely. Too close. Concrete chipped inside the base perimeter. Men ducked, cursed. Anna didn't move. "Now," she said, "now he's listening." She keyed the mic herself. Her voice carried across open channels. "You don't have to do this," she said calmly. "You've proven your point." The room stared at her. Silence answered. Then faintly, another shot closer still. Anna exhaled. "He wants me," she said, "not you." Thorne's face hardened. "Absolutely not." She looked at him, not as a subordinate but as a fellow guardian. "This doesn't end until one of us stops being a question," she said. Davies stepped forward. "Major." "I won't go alone," Anna added, "and I won't rush him." The base held its breath as plans shifted, slowly, carefully. A controlled exposure, a calculated vulnerability. Anna moved to an overwatch position she chose herself. High, wind exposed, honest. She laid prone, rifle steady, breath even. Across the mountain, someone else did the same. Two ghosts, listening to the same wind. Anna felt the old ache in her shoulders, the quiet doubt, the question she never voiced. Am I still enough? The wind answered first. Not with violence, with truth. Some battles aren't about who fires first. They're about who understands the silence better. And the mountain, ancient and impartial, was about to decide which ghost still belonged. Why did the wind suddenly feel deliberate, as if it had chosen a side? Anna lay still, her body pressed into cold stone, the rifle balanced in that perfect place between bone and breath. Time slowed the way it always did before something irreversible, not because the world paused, but because the mind learned to listen faster than the clock. Across the mountain, she knew he was there. Not because she saw him, because she felt the absence where he should have been. The overwatch position she'd chosen was honest, too honest. No false cover, no clever concealment. If he was watching, and he was, he would see exactly what she wanted him to see. A woman alone. Older. Exposed. Bait. The TOC monitored her vitals. Thorne stood rigid, headset tight, jaw locked. Every instinct in him screamed that this was wrong. Too slow. Too quiet. Too dependent on something that couldn't be measured. Wind shifting, an analyst whispered. Anna didn't answer. She was counting something else. The space between sounds. The mountain had a cadence, wind against rock, distant metal, a bird startled into flight, and beneath it all, intention. Jin's student didn't move like a predator chasing a kill. He moved like a man waiting to be seen. She adjusted her grip by millimeters. A crack echoed. Not at her. Above. A warning shot that shaved stone, just enough to announce precision without commitment. Thorne cursed under his breath. He's walking it in. No, Anna said quietly. He's measuring me. She lifted her head just enough to let the sun catch her optic. A flash, deliberate. The response came seconds later. A round snapped past her position, close enough to tear fabric from her sleeve. The mountain exhaled. He knows who you are, Thorne said. Yes. How? She swallowed, because I taught his teacher. The words landed heavy. Memory stirred unwanted sharp. A younger version of herself, not in uniform yet, not sanctioned. A woman learning from a man who never wasted words, who taught her that patience wasn't passive, it was active restraint. Back then, she'd learned to survive by becoming invisible. Now, invisibility was no longer an option. Another shot, closer. Anna shifted position slowly, not to hide, but to communicate. She rolled onto her side, raised her rifle, fired once. Not at him. At a rock face, 20 meters left of his last shot. The impact sent dust cascading, revealing something he'd been careful to suppress. A breath. A pause. Thorne's eyes widened at the feed. She's triangulating by response. No, Davies murmured. She's speaking his language. The answer came immediately. A round cracked back, lower angle, shorter distance. Too eager. Anna smiled faintly. He's angry, she said. Good. She adjusted her position again, deliberately slower this time, letting her joints ache, letting age show. The wind shifted hard. She felt the question rise in her chest again. Am I still enough? The answer didn't come from confidence. It came from memory. From every shot that mattered, not because it killed, but because it saved. Another round snapped. This one punched into her pack, shredding fabric and gear. Close enough now to smell the cordite. Thorne's voice tightened. Major, disengage. Not yet. You're too exposed. That's the point. She lowered her rifle, took her finger off the trigger, let him see it. Silence followed. Long. Then faint over open comms, a voice. Low accented, young. You are Spectre, it said. Not a question. Anna closed her eyes. Yes. A pause longer than before. They said you were dead. I was, she replied, for a while. The wind carried the words across stone and distance. You taught us never to speak, the voice said, and yet here you are. Anna felt the weight of it settle. Because this doesn't end with silence, she said. It ends with choice. The voice laughed once, short, bitter. You came to die. No, she said softly. I came to stop you from becoming something you can't undo. The mountain listened. Thorn whispered, she's negotiating with a sniper. Davies didn't respond. Another long pause. Then the voice returned, closer now, angled differently. You can't save them all. Anna's chest tightened, not from fear. From recognition. No, she said, but I can save you. The next shot came without warning. Anna moved on instinct older than doctrine. She rolled, fired, adjusted. 2 shots. Not kill shots. Denial shots. Rock exploded around his hide, dust blinded, sound disoriented. The counter-sniper teams moved, but Anna waved them off. Wait. The voice came back, ragged now. You're not supposed to be here. She breathed out slowly. Neither are you. Another pause. Then something unexpected. A miss. Not forced. Intentional. Anna's heart sank. He's done, she said. He's breaking contact. Thorn slammed a fist lightly into the rail. We can still take him. No, Anna said firmly. If you try, he'll disappear, and he'll come back worse. Davies hesitated. Then what? Anna lowered her rifle completely. Then we let him leave knowing he was seen, she said, that he was understood. The wind softened. Minutes passed. No more shots. Drones searched, found nothing. The mountain returned to stillness. Anna remained prone for a long time after command cleared the position. Her body felt heavier now. Not wounded, but tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Thorn approached carefully, as if the ground around her were sacred. You could have ended it, he said quietly. Yes. Why didn't you? She looked at him, really looked. Because some victories don't look like bodies, she said. They look like interruptions. He absorbed that in silence. As they walked back toward the base, dawn breaking pale and cautious, Thorn finally asked the question he'd been avoiding. Does it ever get easier? Anna adjusted the rifle case on her shoulder. No, she said, but it gets clearer. They stopped at the gate. Soldiers stood straighter as she passed now, not out of awe but understanding. Inside her chest, something loosened. Not pride. Release. The mountain had tested her again. She was still enough. Not because she could kill, but because she knew when not to. And sometimes, restraint is the sharpest weapon a ghost can carry. Why did the silence after the last shot feel heavier than the firefight itself? The mountain didn't celebrate. It never did. It simply returned to breathing as if nothing had happened, while the people beneath it tried to remember how to do the same. Anna felt the weight settle into her bones as she walked back through the gate. Not exhaustion exactly. Something deeper. The cost that never showed up in after-action reports. The cost of choosing restraint when violence would have been simpler. Inside the TOC, the mood was uncertain. Relief tangled with unease. Operators removed headsets slowly, like waking from a shared dream. No one spoke too loudly. They all knew how close the night had come to ending differently. Colonel Davies broke the silence. Stand down from full alert, he said. Maintain heightened posture, no pursuit. A few heads turned, surprised. Thorn didn't argue. Anna noticed that. She set her rifle case against the wall and leaned it there, not opening it, not cleaning it. For the first time since arriving, she didn't feel the need to prove anything, to herself or anyone else. Carter approached quietly, carrying a tablet. "Major, intelligence just pushed something through." She took it, scanning the screen. Satellite intercepts, fragmented chatter. The language was careful now, defensive. There was fear in it, not of the base, but of her. "They're pulling back," Carter said, "at least for now." Anna handed the tablet back. "They'll adapt." Carter nodded, then hesitated. "You really let him go?" "Yes." "Won't command." "Command didn't see what I saw," she replied gently. What she hadn't said was simpler. He had been standing at the same edge she once had, still close enough to turn back. That mattered. Thorne stood near the map table, staring at the terrain like it had betrayed him. When he finally spoke, his voice carried no rank, only truth. "I would have taken the shot." Anna looked at him. "I know. And I would have been wrong." She said nothing. She didn't need to. Later that morning, a quiet meeting was called. Not formal, no briefing slides, just Davies, Thorne, Anna, and a silence thick enough to be honest. Davies folded his hands. "High Command will ask why we didn't neutralize the threat." "Yes," Anna said. "And what should I tell them?" She met his gaze. "Tell them the threat changed." Davies studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "That's not a report they like." "No," she agreed, "but it's a true one." Thorne exhaled slowly, as if releasing something he'd been holding since she arrived. "You saw him as a person," he said, "not a target." Anna tilted her head. "So did you. You just weren't ready to admit it." That stung, but it didn't offend. After the meeting, life at Fob Kestrel resumed its routines. Patrols rotated, equipment was serviced, coffee burned. Laughter returned, quieter but more genuine. The base didn't feel safer, but it felt steadier. Anna spent the afternoon where she always did, the supply depot. She checked inventories, signed forms, counted what could be counted. Carter watched her work for a while before speaking. "Why stay here?" he asked. "After everything?" She paused. "Because this is where I'm useful." He frowned. "You could be teaching, advising, writing doctrine again." She smiled faintly. "I already did." That evening, Thorne found her at the range. She was standing, not shooting, just watching the light change across the valley. He approached carefully, as if afraid to interrupt something fragile. "They're requesting your input," he said, "on training." Anna nodded. "I expected that. They want you to formalize what you do." She turned to him. "That would ruin it." He almost laughed, almost. "They don't understand," he said. "No," she replied, "but they don't have to." Thorne hesitated. "When you spoke to him, the sniper, did you mean what you said?" "Yes." "That you could save him?" She considered the mountain, the long shadows, the unanswered questions that lived there. "I meant that I could give him a choice," she said. "What he does with it is his burden." Thorne nodded slowly. "You ever regret letting people walk away?" Anna didn't answer immediately. "Yes," she said finally, "and I regret not letting others do the same." Night fell gently. Anna returned to her container later than usual. She opened the rifle case, not to clean the weapon but to rest her hand on it. Familiar, solid, honest. She thought of the years she'd been invisible by design, of the missions that never made records, of friends who had vanished into paperwork and silence. She thought of Vasily, of lessons learned not from commands but from observation. Wind and shadow never lie. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Thorne standing there, awkward, unsure. "I wanted to apologize," he said, "for how I spoke to you when you arrived." She regarded him calmly. "You spoke to what you saw." "And what did you see?" She answered without hesitation. "A man afraid of being outdated." That landed harder than any insult. He swallowed. "Am I?" She shook her head. "Only if you stop learning." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Thorne straightened, not formally, not ceremonially, but sincerely. "I'd be honored," he said, "if you teach us, in your way." Anna considered the request, not the rank, not the authority. The intent. "Then you'll have to unlearn some things first," she said. He almost smiled. Later, alone again, Anna sat on her cot and allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. Not pride, not sorrow. Balance. She had come to this mountain, expecting to fade quietly. Instead, it had asked her to stand once more, not as a weapon, but as a measure. Outside, the wind moved through the valleys, carrying stories that didn't belong to anyone anymore. Somewhere out there, a young sniper was walking away from a line he hadn't crossed. Somewhere inside the base, a generation was beginning to listen instead of calculate. Anna closed her eyes. Not because she was tired, but because, for the first time in a long while, she felt finished with something important. And when dignity doesn't speak, when it simply acts, the echo lasts longer than any gunshot. Why did the morning feel unfinished? Like the mountain was waiting to see who she would be when no one needed her anymore. Dawn arrived quietly, pale light slipping over the ridgelines as if careful not to disturb what had settled overnight. Fob kestrels stirred awake in familiar rhythms, boots on gravel, generators humming, a distant laugh from the mess hall, but something inside the routine had softened. Not relaxed, settled. Anna noticed it as she stepped outside her container, the cold air steady against her face. The mountain felt different now, less curious, less demanding, like it had asked its question and accepted the answer. She walked without hurry, hands in her pockets, passing soldiers who nodded without thinking about it. Not because she was legendary, because she was known. There was a difference. At the range, a small group waited. Thorne stood among them, no longer at the front, just part of the line. Carter was there too, quiet and attentive, a notebook tucked under his arm like a shield. Anna stopped a few paces away. No one spoke. She didn't begin with instruction. She watched the wind. After a long moment, she said, "What do you see?" A few men shifted uncomfortably. One finally answered, "Light crosswind, west to east." Anna nodded. That's what the instruments would say. Silence again. "And what else?" she asked. They followed her gaze. The grass near the berm leaned unevenly. Dust moved uphill instead of down. A bird corrected its glide twice before committing. Carter swallowed. "It's inconsistent." Anna smiled faintly. "No, it's honest." She walked to the firing line and knelt, scooping a pinch of dirt, letting it fall from her fingers. Consistency is a story we tell ourselves to feel in control. The environment doesn't owe us that. No one wrote anything down. They listened. For the next hour, she didn't let anyone fire a shot. She had them observe, describe, disagree, sit in uncertainty without rushing to solve it. Some found it frustrating. Others found it unsettling. Thorne found it humbling. When they finally fired, their shots were fewer, slower, more deliberate. The range felt less like a proving ground and more like a conversation. That afternoon, orders came down quietly. Anna's reassignment was approved, not a removal, a recognition, advisory status, mobility, freedom to move where she was needed. Davies delivered the news himself. "You don't have to accept," he said. Anna read the message once, then again. "I know," she replied. "Will you?" She looked out toward the mountains, the place that had pulled her back into herself, that had reminded her who she was when stripped of title and assumption. "Yes," she said, "on one condition." Davies waited. "I leave something behind." That evening she packed slowly. Not everything, just what mattered: books, a few clothes, the rifle case worn smooth by years of being carried more than used. She paused before closing it, ran her hand along the edge. "Not goodbye. Just acknowledgement. Carter knocked as she finished. Major, he said, then hesitated. Anna. She allowed the correction. I wanted to thank you, he said, for everything. She studied him for a moment, the openness, the readiness. Don't thank me yet, she said. You'll have to carry it forward. He nodded, I will. She believed him. Thorne met her at the gate later, the sun low behind him. No audience, no formality, just two soldiers standing between past and future. I used to think leadership was about having answers, he said. Anna adjusted the strap on her shoulder. It's about holding space for better questions. He considered that. I'm still learning. She nodded. Good, that means you're still useful. They shared a quiet smile, not friendly, not distant, honest. As she walked away, Thorne raised a hand, not in salute but in acknowledgement. She didn't turn back. The transport took her down the mountain as dusk settled in. She watched Fob Kestrel grow smaller, then disappear entirely, swallowed by terrain that would forget names but remember patterns. In the quiet of the ride, memory returned, not sharply, not painfully, but with a gentleness she hadn't expected. Faces long gone, missions that ended without closure, choices that still lived in her hands. She had carried them all for years, believing weight was the price of experience. Now she understood something else. Weight, when shared, becomes guidance. The next base was different, lower altitude, warmer air, younger voices, the same uncertainty hiding behind confidence. She arrived without announcement. Some noticed, some didn't. That was fine. She found a quiet corner, observed, waited. Because timing, she knew, was everything. Weeks later, a report crossed her desk. Fragmented intelligence. A sniper unit disengaged without firing. A young operative reassigned to training. No explanation, no retaliation. Anna read it once. Then she closed the file. Outside, the wind moved through open ground, shaping dust into temporary truths. She stood there, hands clasped behind her back, feeling the familiar pull of listening instead of acting. For the first time in a long while, she felt no need to be seen. Only to be useful. Only to be present. As evening settled, she thought of the mountain, not as a place but as a teacher. It had taken her measure without mercy. It had asked if she still belonged. She had answered without raising her voice. Somewhere someone would tell the story wrong, turn it louder, sharper, more heroic than it deserved. She let that go. The truth didn't need protection. It lived in quieter places. In restraint chosen over violence. In patience practiced without recognition. In dignity that didn't announce itself. Anna walked back inside, the door closing softly behind her. Tomorrow would bring new terrain, new questions, new ghosts. She would meet them the same way she always had. Listening first. Because sometimes, strength isn't the shot you take. It's the one you don't. And sometimes, dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.